Hey, World Civilizations, Mr. Lassiter with you, and in this video I'm going to go over your interview that you're going to have Monday for your Scientific Revolution resume project. This will look at the process of talking to someone, not watching a movie. So let's make sure that we're doing what's on the right there with good smile, nice handshake, good answers, and not assassinating a dictator of a communist nation. Now that we have that cleared up, let's look at the goals. So these are the things that we're going to cover. What should you expect in your interview? How should you prepare? How should you dress? And of course, I know all of you want the questions in advance, which, yes, I will give you. So here are the basics. In your interview, you're going to be asked about 6 questions, and the interviewer might ask some follow-ups for you to clarify some stuff. But our goal is to have a 5 to 10 minute interview with you. Of course, you taking on the character of your scientist from the Scientific Revolution. For this interview, preparation and practice are a must. That's why we want you to have these resumes done by the end of the day Friday, because they're not due till Monday, but if you're spending all weekend putting your resume together, then you don't have time to practice for your interview. Also, we want you to dress for success. We want you to be confident. We want you to be clear in what you're saying. And a lot of that confidence and clarity comes from that preparation and practice. Also, you can bring an extra copy of your resume. As you see here in this picture, Mr. Gilford, being interviewed by Miss FC, is giving her an extra copy as they sit down. For my class, I'm going to allow you to have a copy of your resume there with you that you can look on, but I don't necessarily want you to rely on that because you should know the information in that resume. So let's talk about the preparation. I said this is a must, so what should you be doing to prepare? Well, you should be practicing the questions you'll be asked, and you should make sure that you can answer the questions fully and provide examples. All right, so that's key, that you can provide examples that your scientists did in the Scientific Revolution that would help them or make them better for this job. Also, practice speaking clearly and making eye contact. That might sound kind of silly, but we're not necessarily used to it all the time, especially at such a young age. Sometimes we're not used to making eye contact with adults all the time, and sometimes we like to mumble. That was the thing my dad probably said most to me as a child: stop mumbling. But speaking clearly, making eye contact gives a very strong message that you're right for a job. Also, practice your handshake. Practice it with your neighbors. Practice it with your parents. Practice it with me when you come into class and ask how it is, because that's a big deal. Also, turn off your cell phone. Of course, you shouldn't have it with you on in class, but in your interview, that's just a good life skill. You don't want your phone going off during your interview. It appears rude and unprepared. Most of the questions I've gotten so far is not about the preparation process, which is probably the most important, but it's actually about the professional attire that you should be wearing. So for guys, let me just tell you, a tie is preferable, and nice slacks are a must. No jeans or sneakers. And comb or brush your hair and shave. You should be clean shaven for these interviews. For girls, business attire is what you want. A work dress is okay, but we're not wearing prom gowns here. It's not how nice you can dress, but can you dress for the job, for guys and girls. And I know exactly that sometimes when I go out for a nice evening, I'll wear my nice jeans and I'll wear a nice pair of sneakers, and I think I look great, and you certainly do. But that's not necessarily the business world, so we dress differently for interviews. Also, for everyone, brush your teeth. You're going to be speaking to these people, and breath can go across the table. It can go a long way, and it can smell bad. So brush them good. So here are 2 people, Mr. Gilford on the left and me on the right, which would be right for an interview. Now, Mr. Gilford is wearing slacks there. They kind of came out looking like blue jeans, but they are slacks. So you would want to dress more like Mr. Gilford and less like an untucked, unhairbrushed, pen in mouth Mr. Lassiter here. So here is from the proactiveprofessional.com. There's tons of job interview tip websites out there, but this is a nice example of what is appropriate to wear. Business professional for women or business casual. Business professional for men would include a suit, whereas for business casual for men would just be a shirt, a button-up shirt and tie. Notice none of them are wearing sneakers or blue jeans. So let's talk about the handshake. When you give a good handshake, you want it to be firm, but you don't want a crushing handshake. Especially, let's say, if you have very strong, and then that person comes out and they're just rubbing their hand the whole meeting and thinking about how much their hand hurts, they're not necessarily going to think about how you did in the interview. No dead fish hands. Don't just put your hand out there and expect them to shake it. It's a two-way street. You're both shaking hands, and make eye contact when you greet the interviewer. Say, "Hello, I am Mr. Lassiter. Great to meet you," or something similar to that. And speak in a clear, strong voice. That first impression is the most important. Here's a good example of what to do and what not to do. On the left, Mr. Gilford has given a good, strong handshake with eye contact to Miss FC, and she greets it back. Whereas on the right, he has given her the dead fish hand, which leaves her questioning why he even came to the interview. Dead fish hand. So the interview itself, man, we spent all this time leading up to the interview. Is the interview even important? Well, yes. So you want to speak clearly and make eye contact. Be honest. You want to give complete answers. That's key for this project to get your credit. Be positive, of course, and avoid one or two word responses. Yeses and nos don't cut it in interviews, even if it's a yes or no question. It's yes or no followed with concrete examples or reasoning behind why you said yes or no. Responses should be about 30 seconds each, but that's not always the case. Sometimes they ask you to elaborate or go on. Usually you don't want to speak more than a minute because it sounds like you're rambling. So here are another couple things. On the left, Mr. Gilford is having a nice conversation, speaking clearly and making eye contact, but on the right, he's just fiddling with his tie, looking down and mumbling. And Miss FC is wondering why she's even wasting the time with interviewing him, because he certainly will not get the job. Of course, you want to know the questions we're going to ask, so here you go. These 6 questions are what you will be asked in the interview. Why do you want to work at the Royal Academy of Sciences? We want you to tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, your interests, etc. And those are the things you're researching. What kind of educational background has prepared you for a career as a scientist? What experiences have you had in your career? What do you feel sets you apart from other scientists in your field? So there you'll have to make an argument for why your scientist is more important than maybe some of the others. And then how do you feel your science can contribute to the greatness of France? Remember, you're applying for the French Royal Academy of Sciences, so Louis XIV is going to certainly want to know what you can contribute to his country. And lastly, the rubric. So this is what you'll be graded on. This is what your interview will fill out after interviewing you. You'll be graded on professionalism, which is how you carry yourself. If you're laughing and playing or not answering questions completely or not dressed for the part, you certainly will not get professionalism points. How clearly you speak, that's not necessarily just whether or not you are prepared, but can we hear and understand what you're saying? Does it sound like you know what you're talking about? How well do you answer the questions? That's extremely important. If you have really great answers, you'll get full credit. And then, based on the interviewer, would you hire this person for the job? And that is a continuum. Sometimes you don't have a person who 100% stands out, and so you might be somewhere in there between 1 and 5. But if you're giving poor answers, you're unclear, and you're unprofessional, certainly you would not hire that person. That's it. That's everything. Here are the goals of the video again. Rewatch if necessary. And remember, above all, prepare, prepare, prepare. Practice your answers to these questions. Don't come in and wing it. Excuse me. That's all for today. Have a good night.